Overdrive, Melody Friday. Welcome to everybody watching on TSN 2. Jim, Tatti, and Dave Feschuk from the Toronto Star with you. Final hour of the show, final hour of the week, the work week. Let's put it that way.
Yes, sir.
This
Looking
is it.
forward to the weekend. What are you, big plans or what?
No, I got the trick back thing, so I got to fix that.
Well, that's a plan.
Yeah,
Fix the trick back.
yeah, I got to fix that.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to walk it off or if I'm going to try other manipulations, but I actually walked it off last week. Problem with that is as soon as I sat down, it came back.
They say walking is great for the spine.
Yeah,
Heard that from some of the best minds in the medical business.
Okay, well then we'll do that. We'll just we'll start.
Just keep walking.
Saturday morning we'll start and we'll stop walking Sunday night.
There you go.
Yeah. So we've got CFL action tonight on the network. Hamilton 2-8 visiting Winnipeg 4-6, and the Bombers' turnaround is simple. It's what Hamilton doesn't have: a good defense.
Yeah. Well, isn't that truth? Yeah. That's the absolute truth here. It's hey man, this is like prime CFL weekend, right? Like, is there anything better than Labor Day in the CFL outside of the Grey Cup? I mean, this is pretty much primetime matchups and all the great rivalries, and it's a lot of fun to look forward to it.
Yeah, setting up Labor Day weekend, and in terms of that, Hamilton 2-8 at Winnipeg 4-6 tomorrow night. BC 5-5. Visiting Ottawa 6-2-1, and of course Nathan Rourke expected to have the full look. Although I talked to Derek Taylor, voice of the Bombers, this morning, and he said maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe it takes another game before the full look from Nathan Rourke shows up.
Well, yeah, give the guy some time here.
Yeah,
and he's been as Dave Naylor pointed out the other day. Like, let's not underestimate the fact he hasn't played in the heat of game action for a year and a half plus, right?
Yeah. And
then the idea that he's been looking at playbooks that are in a different language, the language known as the NFL, you know, in places like Atlanta and New England and on down the line of all the places he's tried his hand.
So there's the ultimate question. Maybe we'll ask Milt Stegall when he joins us in a couple of minutes. How different can a playbook be?
Well, when they're in a different league, I think they're pretty different.
Yeah, but I mean, so when they used to do the audio up on a CFL game, I was told that they just, it's pretty well the same stuff, would just mungle up all the terms so you can't read it, but you can read it as it's happening if you're a player.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think you got to give Nathan Rourke some time, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of similarities in the games. There's also a lot of differences. There's a lot of similarities in some language in the game. There's also teams that have completely different vernaculars. And I just think we know how good this guy can be, right? And it's just, to me, it's just a matter of time before he's back to being a dominant player in this league. And whether it's 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, I mean, if you're the the BC Lions, like you'd prefer it be 1 or 2 games, but if it turns into 3 or 4, as you say, like it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And as long as he is strong down the stretch here, and they're going to be a relevant playoff team, it's hard to imagine that this is not going to turn out well for Nathan Rourke and the BC Lions.
Just have to send that off to Yes Guy LLP. I said mungle up, so I've created a new term, and we're going to register it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Yeah, there you go. That's why Yes Guy LLP is nonstop, 24 hours a day.
Those lawyers on retainer, they work hard for you.
I could wake up in the middle of the night and say something, register it. There's somebody there.
That's amazing.
It is. Well, you have to be on it.
Yeah. And you are.
I try to be.
Now you've got the legal side of Yes Guy LLP handled perfectly.
Yeah.
I think the medical side needs to be beefed up here because you're walking around with a trick back.
Yeah.
Do we need a review of the sports performance side of Yes Guy headquarters?
I don't think there is one, which might be the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bottom of the hey, if LeBron James can spend $1 million a year on his body, maybe you could spend like $5.
Well, that's pretty well what I do.
A bottle of Advil?
Yeah, it's all percentages. Please don't make me laugh. It's all percentages. Michael Collins will be by at the bottom of the hour talking about the PGA, the BMW, as he is the ESPN golf analyst and a former caddy.
Yeah, he's a great one. Michael Collins, always a joy to listen to. Looking forward to that segment.
Yeah. So, Milt Stegall, CFL and TSN. Is Milt there? Milt? Hello, Milt.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right.
Hello, Milt.
There.
Can you hear us?
Hello.
Yes.
So, Milt, I was going to bury this question for later on, but the Rouge to win a game, I mean, where are you on that?
Hate it.
Yeah.
Hate it. Hate the fact that you can fail and win. I don't understand. And like I say, I said on air, I understand this rule has been around long before I got involved in the CFL. It'll be around long afterwards. But I just don't like the fact that you can win by failing. People could purposely miss a field goal and still win a game. So other people agree with me. Some people don't. But until the day I die, I always say I don't agree with that. What if a Grey Cup is won by missing a field goal? How
heavens.
will that look?
Yikes.
That won't be a good look in my head. That won't be a good look. So will they ever do anything about it? I don't know. But till the day I die, I'll always say I don't agree with that.
So, Milt, what's the practical way out of this? Like, you could ban the rouge completely and just say we're not doing that anymore. The single does not exist. Or are you more in favor of just saying let's ban the rouge in the final 2 minutes of a game? Or where are you on where it needs to be banned?
I think that's a good compromise, like the last 2 minutes of a game. When it comes down to those nail biters, you ban it then. So, because I've been in a situation where teams purposely, they didn't care about kicking the field goal. All they were concerned with was getting that 1 point, just kick it out of the back of the end zone. So, last 2 minutes of the game, you say there's no more rouges. There's no more getting that 1 point on a missed field goal. And people will say, well, that takes away because guys won't always return the ball, but it's just not a good look, in my opinion, being able to win like that. It just puts a bad look on the league, if you ask me. And I know it's tradition and it means a lot to CFL, but hey, when you're trying to grow, when you're trying to evolve, you have to make changes to what you've been doing for a long time.
Well, in that particular game, you were there. I mean, that was a really good football game, really tough football game, and I think there was a lot of anticipation as to what could happen in overtime.
Exactly. If this game goes in overtime, what could happen? There's been so many ups and downs. Both teams had great opportunities. They had the 3 goal line stands where Saskatchewan stopped them, and great game. And then you have that anticlimactic ending like that on a missed field goal on the rouge. It's just not a good look, in my opinion. I don't know. I'll get some backlash for it from some of the old school individuals who've been around this league for a long time. But for me, I'll never buy into that rule right there.
Okay, well, no matter how they won, Milton, I know you don't like the way they won. The Argos won, and as Chad Kelly said after the game, a win is a win. You breathe a sigh of relief and you move on, and you try to be better. But when you assessed Chad Kelly's much anticipated, much scrutinized return to the CFL, what did you see from Chad?
Well, and I think everyone expected that, starting off it was going to be a little shaky. He came out and, it was a lot of pressure on him. I'm sure he put a lot of pressure on himself because the last time he stepped on the field, he stunk it up in that East Final. But as the game went on, you could see him getting more comfortable. He's never one to lack confidence, but you could see him getting more comfortable. His understanding of the game started coming back. And I think Ryan Dinwiddie started opening up the playbook, and they started making some plays. I mean, I'm sure he would have liked to play a better game, but first game back after being out 9 games, he threw for over 300 yards. That's not bad. They had some opportunities to make some plays that they didn't, but I'm sure he's more than satisfied, and everyone at the organization is more than satisfied with him in his first outing. So he needs to get better, but for his first outing of the year, that's pretty good.
What's your read on the Riders? I mean, they had a pretty good start, and I thought they played a really good game last night. They held the Argos in the goal line 3 straight times. An unfortunate timeout call as they seemed to get it out of that range that caused the late rouge. But this football team is good. It just seems to run into some trouble.
You're as good as your record. they haven't won a game in 5 tries, so they're not that good right now. I understand what you're saying because they've been close, but I mean that's like saying I'm almost pregnant. That doesn't exist. You don't almost win football games, so they have to find a way to win. It's not going to get any easier. They have a hot Bomber team coming up. There's next 2 games. Yes, they're still in a good position because they still hold that first spot in the West, but I guarantee you it doesn't feel like they're in first place because they've been losing so much and they've been finding different ways to lose. Sometimes it's the field goal kicker not making enough field goals. Other times it's the offense not making plays, the defense giving up big plays. They're finding plenty of ways to lose, so they just need to find a way to win and get back on track. As I just alluded to, they're still in a good place because they're still in first place because they had that good start. But now we're coming down the home stretch, and they better get it together. Otherwise, they could find themselves on the bottom looking up.
You know, we spent a lot of time scrutinizing the final play of that Argos game, Milt, but there were a couple plays late in the first half that got overturned by the command center, could have been touchdowns for the Argos, and head coach Ryan Dinwiddie expressed some frustration, shall we say. That's kind of been a theme of the first half of the CFL season, frustration with the command center, with the replay center, and the way those calls are being overturned or otherwise. How did you see those calls, and what's your take on the fuss about the command center?
It's a difficult situation. You never want to criticize what those individuals have to look. Everything is just so subjective. My problem is I don't like the fact that you can challenge just about everything now. Mistakes are going to be made. Mistakes are made by coaches. Players drop balls. Players miss tackles. Mistakes are made on the field. You can't correct every mistake that's made by a player or a coach, so the refs are going to make mistakes. It's part of being human, but the fact that we're trying to make everything perfect, I don't like that because it's still a subjective thing. You're still having other humans looking at other mistakes that humans made. Sometimes you just have to let things be what they are. So there's been a lot of scrutiny placed on this, the command center, and yes, they've made some bad calls. Let's be honest about that. But other times it's like, okay, come on, guys. You just have to let things be, and this is football. You're dealing with humans. No one's perfect, and no situation is perfect. So, as I just said, I don't like the fact that you can just basically have an opportunity to look at each and every play if you disagree with what happened.
Milt, let's go to the Friday night game. Hamilton 2-8 and Winnipeg 4-6. Winnipeg throttled BC in consecutive games. Really good, strong defense. That's the strength of that team. Clearly, Hamilton's just had a tough season. How do you see this game?
It could get ugly. It could get ugly, but Hamilton could also come out and win. I think last year Winnipeg was rolling and Hamilton was struggling. The game was in Hamilton, and Hamilton just pounced them. This game, the most important player is Bo Levi Mitchell. He controls the outcome of this game more so than anybody on that field in that stance. If he can come out here and play well, even with the way that defense is playing, they have an opportunity to win this game. But if he's not playing well because the guys behind him, there's really no experience, and they basically have to stick with him, this game could get out of hand. So Bo Levi Mitchell has a great opportunity to somewhat revive his career because he hasn't really done much since he's gotten in Hamilton. Scott Milanovich really didn't believe it. The only reason he's playing right now is Taylor Powell is hurt. So he has an opportunity to do some great things. It's not going to be easy. His Winnipeg defense has been playing some excellent ball. Not great ball, excellent ball, almost flawless. So they're going to try to go in there and continue that momentum because they understand they're 3 points out of being first place, and they play the first place team twice after this game, so they understand they have a great opportunity in front of them.
Clearly, when you're 2-8, your defense is just not good, and that would describe Hamilton. What impact do you think Chris Jones would have on that?
Is Chris Jones stepping on the field? If Chris Jones is not stepping on the field, I don't know how much of an impact. I mean, I just don't know how you think, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he will, but I don't understand how bringing in a coach, and he's a good defensive coach, but he's been a great defensive coach when he had some great defensive players. I don't care how smart you are as a coach, how well you devise a game plan. If you don't have the players, it doesn't matter. And maybe, like I say, maybe he can make some changes. I may be wrong, but I don't know how just bringing in a coach with a week or two notice is going to make that big of a difference. I hope I'm wrong because we want this game to be competitive. We want them to have a good defense, but I just don't know how that's going to happen.
Hey, Milt, you've been a great receiver in this league for many, many years. We've got two great quarterbacks, for guys who've proven they can be elite quarterbacks in this league, coming back off long absences in Chad Kelly and Nathan Rourke. What's your best guess on how long it's going to take these guys to shake off the rust and return to the level that we know they can reach, which is, among the best, if not the best, in the league? I
think we'll see a big game from Nathan Rourke tomorrow.
Okay.
I think we'll see a big game. and I mentioned this on the hit we were doing, he never really had a chance to decompress. He played a game with the Falcons on August 9th. He was released by the Falcons on the 11th. August 13th, he signed with the BC Lions. He practiced 2 days. August 18th, he's playing in his first CFL game that he's played in almost 2 years. So he never had a chance to decompress. This week, he's had a few days of practice. He had a better understanding of the offense. Yeah, he knew the offense, but he was thrown into it right away. Played with some receivers he hadn't played with. So I think he'll play a whole lot better than what he played last week, and I think he'll put his team in a good position to win. I think the same way would be for Chad Kelly. I mean, this man threw for over 300 yards in his first game. No touchdowns. He did make some mistakes, but these guys are pretty good quarterbacks. They understand what it takes to be great. They're very astute when it comes to the game. They have strong arms, somewhat mobile, so they're able to make plays. So it won't take long at all for either one of these quarterbacks to get back up to speed to where they were when they were at the top of their games.
As you know, the Alouettes are just burning everybody up. They're 9-1. Nobody could predict 9-1. But this team is, I mean, they had a great second half a year ago, and they haven't missed a beat, have they?
They haven't missed a beat. And now you're taking out a guy who's been playing some of the best position at quarterback and Davis Alexander and putting in your Grey Cup MOP MVP quarterback. So they're like, man, you know, we have so much that we can put out on the field. Austin Mack is back. It's like, how do you beat this team? It's crazy. I mentioned that Sean Lemon, who's suspended probably forever, is going to get a facelift so he can get back on the team. They're going to find a way to get him back out there. So this team is hitting on all cylinders. They're doing some special things, and it's going to take a lot to beat them. You're going to have almost a perfect game because they don't have many spaces in their team that they have weaknesses in. So they have something special going over there. Danny Machochi has done a great job. Jason Monson, their head coach, has done a great job. So if you had to pick a favorite who's going to win the Grey Cup, it has to be the Montreal Alouettes right now because of what they've done. Not only like you mentioned last year, but what they've done this year.
Hey, Milt, when you look back at last year, and, you know, there was weeks and weeks went by last year, we were saying a lot of what you just said about the Alouettes, you could probably, you know, make a pretty close comparison to the way people were talking about the Toronto Argonauts. There was talk of this team being, you know, if not the best team in the CFL now, which everybody assumed they were, maybe one of the great teams in CFL history. And then came the East Final, which you've alluded to, and a big setback for Chad Kelly and the Argos. Like, you know, what is it about that moment? It was like a absolute turnabout there, where the team we thought that was the best wasn't the best, and this team emerged. Like, is there a way for the Argos to get back to that moment and sort of have a redo here? Can they sort of recommit to that or refine what made them great before the East Final, or is that ship sailed? No,
without a doubt, no, it hasn't. And the big reason is because Chad Kelly is back. I mean, he was a big reason why they were able to get to that point. Yes, they had some stellar play on defense, and they've lost some of those guys from stellar special team play from Beatty and Javon Leake, and they lost those guys. And you think about all the guys they lost, and this team was still 5-4 with those guys lost and without their starting MOP quarterback. And now they're in a position now where they have their guy back and they could get back to that position. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit harder because the guys I just talked about aren't there anymore, but you have your star quarterback back, your quarterback who can make plays. It builds so much confidence within that team. This was a team that didn't have a receiver in the top 25, the only team who didn't have a receiver going over 100 yards, and now they had one over 100 yards yesterday. So now they understand. They believe now we have a shot. And I'm not saying anything about the quarterbacks who played before Chad, but it's hard to believe that you can win many games with those guys because they just haven't played much. But now you have a guy that led your team to 16 victories. You believe now. And when you believe, you have an opportunity to win each and every time you step on that field.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, when you sort of look at, you were talking about Rourke, and you think he could have a great game as soon as this weekend. Like, what is it about him that he's going to need to do, though? Like, I mean, is it as simple as just, like, reading a playbook? Naylor was talking about the other day, like, there is some stress involved in going from one NFL camp to another NFL camp and reading one playbook and studying another playbook. And and flipping through all those different scenarios and then getting back to this one. Like, how much of this is about just studying, Milt, and getting back to understanding where you're at in the CFL game?
Well, it's not almost studying because he knows the BC Lions offense. He played in it for a couple of years, so I'm sure coming back to it, it's just getting acclimated to a different game, a different field, understanding there's 12 guys out there, understanding the 20-second clock, understanding all those things. I don't think it's necessarily the offense, and I know what Naylor's talking about, and that's why Nathan didn't want to do another NFL team, because he would have had to learn a whole new playbook, and that's why he said, coming back to the BC Lions, he didn't even open up himself to other teams in the CFL, because every single team probably would have opened up the door to see what he was talking about. He knew he wanted to come back to the BC Lions because he knew that offense. He knew he could play right away. So I don't think it was necessarily the playbook, but it's more so getting acclimated back to the CFL game, because it's not an easy transition for a quarterback, understanding that the field is wider. If you look at the interception he threw to Terrell Ford, it was because he was trying to throw to the wide side of the field, and maybe in the NFL he can make that throw, but in the CFL, I don't care how strong your arm is, you're not making that throw. So it's just getting more accustomed to the CFL game, more so than getting accustomed to the BC Lion playbook.
Milt, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Enjoy the game tonight.
All right, you guys do the same. Thanks for having me on. Take care.
Thank you. Milt Stegall from the CFL on TSN. That wide field throw in the CFL is totally underrated. That's a bomb.
That's tough stuff.
It is.
And it's a great point Milt brings up about just the geometry of the different games, right? Like, you can come back from an NFL camp thinking I can make that throw, and then you realize, it's maybe a little longer. In fact, it's a lot longer than the throw you'd make in the NFL.
So, and not to put aside what Nathan Rourke or Chad Kelly have to go through to get back to where they were, Jeremiah Masoli missed an entire year, and actually missed an entire 2 years when you think of it. Had the serious injury, came back, I think, game 1 or 2, Achilles. I think it was his first game back. Blew out his Achilles and then returned and had a pretty good game in his last start.
Well, that's impressive.
That is impressive.
I mean,
there's a guy who had no ring rust.
Yeah, and that's at age 35, coming off serious injury.
Yeah,
I mean that's not easy to do, and impressive for sure. I mean, it goes to show that the road is long for a lot of these guys, right?
Oh, for a serious injury like an Achilles for a quarterback, that's tough.
Well, we're about to see it in the NFL. The most highly anticipated return from an Achilles in recent memory in Aaron Rodgers.
And to sort of wrap up, the Askarov trade has been added to, and that San Jose's given him a 2-year extension. So he's going into the final year of his entry-level contract at $950 and comes out of that for 2 more years at $2 million each. So he's been extended. So San Jose's going to give him a 3-year window.
And a lot of goalie news around the NHL today, Jim. The news out of Vancouver with Thatcher Demko and this knee injury that we've been hearing is not healing as quickly as the Canucks had hoped. There's feeling that he may not be ready for training camp and preseason games, and obviously that puts into question the situation for the regular season opener. Yeah, and I tried to mention this yesterday, and I just think that, with all the lateral movement, it's a little different. There was always lateral movement, but you see how these guys sort of push off the one post, and there's a lot of back and forth. I'm just wondering, because this guy, Husso in Detroit, there's a couple of goalies that get these injuries, and they don't seem to heal. Yeah. And it seems to be chronic. And you're talking not 6 months, but it ends up ruining a couple of seasons. Yeah, it's a big problem in the goalie community, right? I've seen young kids as young as 15, 16 having to get various knee and hip surgeries, right? There's so much pressure on the hips and the knees, in the butterfly position, as you say, the lateral movement side to side, the up and down of just, slamming down on those knees in that big wide butterfly position. And man, it's not a natural position for the human body, and you gotta train and build up all those muscles around those joints to somehow make them as bulletproof as possible. But ultimately, how many guys go through their careers without a knee injury, a hip injury, a groin injury? That whole complex down there gets stressed. Well, and we used to judge goalies by shots on goal, and that's almost irrelevant. I don't know what the sports science people look at, but if you go to a game, and obviously you want to watch the game, but if you can spend a couple of minutes watching the goaltender and what he's doing,
he's active for the whole 60 minutes.
Yeah, you talk to the guys that they wear those in practice. They wear those little devices on their shoulder pads. Every player does, but with the goalies, it's measuring the load as they go up and down, up and down. You go to an ice surface and do 100 butterflies and see how you feel. Right?
No,
it's a hell of a workout.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and most of us we'd have various torn ligaments and popped groins and
other butterflies.
We need titanium hips in very short order.
It's wear and tear, and it's a sudden. It's not a planned movement. A lot of times it's sudden. I'm not going to say reflex, but when you watch them push off that post to go to the other side, there's nothing smooth about that. It looks smooth, but it's hard in the body.
Very hard.
Coming up next, Michael Collins will stop by, ESPN golf analyst, longtime caddy, talking about the BMW and all kinds of the FedEx Championship, maybe the President's Cup as well, as Overdrive continues on TSN 2, the iHeartRadio app, streaming online, and TSN 1050. Mail it in Friday, Overdrive, final half hour for a day and a week. Jim, Tatti, Dave Feschuk from the Toronto Star with you. Overdrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We can update the BMW, and you have to do like the translation. Here's the leaderboard. Here's what it means. So I'm just going to cut to the chase. Adam Scott and Oberg both fired 9 unders today. For Adam Scott, that punches him up 37 spots to 4 in the FedEx Cup standings, and Oberg moves up 2. And, not in danger of taking over the FedEx Cup standings, but sizable increase for Adam Scott.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's, when you have to translate what it means.
Yeah.
I don't know if this format's the best, but look, the top 30 guys are going to the Tour Championship. It's as simple as that, I guess. And now it looks like Adam Scott is, projected to go from outside the Tour Championship picture to well inside it if he could keep this up.
Let's bring in Michael Collins, ESPN golf analyst and longtime caddy. Michael, welcome. How are you today, sir?
Fantastic, man. Excited to see both Adam Scott and Keegan Bradley. Keegan Bradley especially, he's being the absolute Cinderella of the ball. If he stays in the position he's in, he's going to play himself from being number 50 and to making it the whole way to the Tour Championship, that's what you're supposed to, in theory, be able to do. But, him and Adam Scott look like they'll be the only 2 players to come from that far outside. Maybe Alex Noren, if he can keep it up as well. But, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Keegan Bradley, also the Ryder Cup captain, so it's good to see him doing well. So you're okay with this format, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a hesitant.
Look, here's the thing. So, here's the problem. Like, Scottie Scheffler, he was confused about it because he's like, I thought the FedEx Cup was supposed to be a celebration of the whole year up to no, you won the Comcast Business Top 10. That was if you win the year-long race of the FedEx Cup points, he just got a check for $8 million, right? Scottie's played 17 events and has won $29 million. He's getting a check for $8 million for winning the regular season. This is the playoffs. So it's like, it's supposed to reset. And that's why, even everyone out there right now is like, hey, when we get to the Tour Championship, if you have the lead, like Scottie Scheffler's going to have the lead, he gets to start at 10 under. You're like, wait, what? But it's after all the iterations that we've had in the past, you're like, well, this is better than all that other bull crap that we were doing before. It's like, okay. And every guy says the same thing. Well, it's not perfect, but it's the best that we got. So it's, it's kind of like how the college playoffs started. But if we were going to be honest, and if you're going to call this the playoffs, in what other sport in the playoffs does somebody get to start with the lead? It's not like when you get it to the Stanley Cup Finals. It's like, well, because you played the best during the regular season, you're going to start all 7 games with a 2-goal lead. Oh. Wait, what? No, I'm not. No. Yeah.
We'd love that in Toronto.
That helped the Leafs, Michael.
I was going to say, first you have to make the finals.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Wow.
Sorry.
Vicious.
Let me tell you something. You're talking to a Flyers fan, so I can care less how hurt you are about being Leafs fans, whatever with that. So, But yeah, that's the whole point of this is like the guy who wins the tour championship is getting a check for $25 million. And so the guy who's in 30th place, who made it to the finals, shouldn't his reward be, I got just as good a chance winning $25 million as the guy who got here in first place? Right? That's what the playoffs are supposed to be. Like, you're going to have upsets. And if you look at this list today, as it is right now, you're like, hey, because, you know, the whole thing was let's get the biggest, most popular guys to play, because way back in the day, Phil and Tiger both skipped it. And that's why they came up with this FedExCup. They were like, how are we going to get the biggest names to play? Well, right now, you look at this thing, you're like, yo, the Tour Championship, we're going to watch this? Yeah. Brian Harmon, Matthew Pavon, Tom Hoagie, Victor Hovland, Akshay Bhatia, and Wyndham Clark. You excited? Hey, where you going? Why are you leaving? Why are you crying? Where you going? Like,
exactly.
See, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, it's lose no matter what. And look, Scottie had the lead the last 2 years. 2 years in a row, you had the lead of the FedEx Cup. And 2 years, you couldn't take the money. You couldn't get the prize. So it's like, hey, maybe this course just ain't for you, or play better, right?
Right.
Like, you got $29 million in 17 events, and you're getting an $8 million bonus check. How much you need, bruh, to play better at Eastlake?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, let's talk about Scottie a little bit as opposed to Xander Schauffele. They're the two guys that have sort of separated themselves from the field. Obviously, Schauffele wins a couple of majors, the PGA and the Open Championship, and Scottie wins one major, the Masters, but you know, he wins the Players, the unofficial fifth major, and all these elevated events that make him so much money. Michael, who's your pick? If we're picking before we know who's winning at Eastlake, which we are, who's your pick for PGA Tour Player of the Year?
I mean, Scottie's the winner. And you got to remember, he also won the gold medal. That's what.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Scottie won the gold medal at the Olympics, right? And those signature events, I got a little bit of a problem with, because they were like, the reason that they were created was to fight that other league, right? And they're like, oh, we're gonna get all the best guys together to play events. But all those big guys were also like, you know, the PGA Tour is all about legacy. Well, legacy isn't 60-man fields with no cut, because that's what y'all were complaining about when it came to that other league. Oh, those guys are not real golf. There's no cut. They're only 48 dudes over there playing. Well, now you got 60 dudes, and they're all playing for free money. So winning those events is like, nah. Like, did you have to struggle? Nah, you knew you were playing 4 days anyway, but it's still the strongest fields that they could have possibly had, so you don't want to take too much away from it. So when it comes down to it, Scottie Scheffler is the player of the year. But if you ask most golfers, what would they rather have? 1.5 majors? I mean, I call the Players a major because it is. It's the major of the PGA Tour. It's the only one that the PGA Tour got. Or would you rather have Xander's Open Championship and PGA Championship? And most players would say, I'd rather have Xander's season, but Scottie's Player of the Year.
That doesn't make sense.
I know it doesn't make sense, but neither does the FedExCup playoff. But before the Olympics, like, if Xander would have won the gold medal and the FedExCup, let's say if Xander would have won the gold medal and he would have won this week and next week in Eastlake, because right now it's like Xander overall, head-to-head versus Scottie, he's 30 strokes better at Eastlake. But if he would have won the gold medal and then won one of these playoff events and the Tour Championship, Xander's the Player of the Year. But as soon as he lost at the Olympics, that's it. Like, Scottie, it's wrapped up. Stick a bow on it. Done.
I'm almost afraid to ask you about Rory. I mean, you're talking about strange stories. How does a guy have a major winning gap like he has? I
mean, he ain't the only one. He's just a big name.
Yeah.
That's why. because golf is cyclical like that. Because it's hard. It's hard to win majors anyway, but then when you're going through some of the things that Rory has gone through, and I'm not just talking about personal life stuff, but I mean, that's one of the things nobody or everyone forgets about. Like, golfers and athletes, period, like they're human beings.
Yeah.
Like, this guy looked horrible out on the field today, and blah, blah, blah. Something was wrong. But this guy can't come out and be like, yeah, I got in a big argument with my wife, and I don't know if we're going to stay together. Like, fans don't, we do care, but no one wants to hear that, right? Even though it all affects all of us as well if it happens to us in our lives. So, like, Rory being the face of the PGA Tour and everything that happened in the last 2 years that is going on between now these two leagues that were competing and supposedly were enemies at the beginning and are now trying to find a way together. And Rory was in the middle of all that and then got out of it and then was like, you know what? I better get back in it. And then guys at the tour were like, yeah, we don't want you back in it no more because we don't like the things you're saying anymore, right? Like, so all that kind of stuff affects a guy like Rory. So to be like, hey, this guy had a chance coming down the stretch at the U.S. Open and choked it away because it hit a couple of really horrible putts and maybe a bad chip or two as well. You're like, well, if Rory's putting himself in position to win majors, that's a good thing. Winning them is hard. And so should we be surprised that it's taken this long for Rory McIlroy? If you actually dig deep and look into everything that's been going on with him, no, you shouldn't. If you just look at Rory the golfer and you're like, this dude was beat-all, end-all, he's whooping everybody. He should be winning at least 2 majors a year. Well, yeah, if you don't want to pull the curtain back, of course. He looks like, this dude, why is he not winning majors? Well, because they're hard.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Michael. Well, the Live PGA Tour story, it's kind of faded into the background, although it's there. I think the biggest story in golf, Michael, this week was the news that Adam Sandler is making the sequel to Happy Gilmore. Gilmore, of course, the 1996 Tour champion of the PGA Tour. In fiction. You're around the tour. Like, what's your sense? I saw the casting call had like 12,000 people that wanted to come out to be extras. What's your sense of the PGA Tour player, caddy, media, celebrity? What's the hankering to get a cameo in this thing from your perspective?
It all depends. See, here's the thing about that with their filming too. One, Sandler loves filming in Hawaii. Not necessarily an easy place for golfers to get to during the season. So it's all about when is it going to be filming and then what guys would be able to get over to wherever they're going to be filming most of this, which is if I know Adam Sandler, like most of the stuff he's filming is in Hawaii. So there would be a lot of guys who would love to have a cameo in it. That being said, how many sequels are awesome, especially ones that have gone this long? Like, you remember they tried to do Coming to America 2 as well? Like,
right.
With the whole cast. Like, we're putting the band back together. This is going to be awesome. No, it wasn't. it wasn't awesome. Now, it took a minute, but, like, the new Ghostbusters series is pretty good, but that's with different cast. Remember, Ghostbusters did Ghostbusters 2, and it was all right. Like, it wasn't, for the time, it was okay. But usually comedy sequels, does anybody want to talk about Caddyshack 2? No.
Good
everyone
point.
wishes it was never done, right? So it's like, it's going to be, everyone's kind of just holding their breath, and in a optimistic, pessimistic way. You know what I mean? It's one of those, they're doing Happy Gilmore Part 2. You'd be like, oh, please don't let this suck. Please let this be funny. You know what I mean? Like, and why didn't Adam you should have made Big Daddy 2. You know what I mean?
Right.
The teenage years. Let's see how that did first. You know what I mean? Or like 50 first dates. Let's now go on like 15 long years of marriage. Let's do that as part 2. 51st dates, part 2. They've been married for 4 years, and he's kind of sick of it, right? Reminding her every day, right? Like, do that in sequel and see how that does first before we try to do Happy Gilmore. But you know what? Like, I will be anxious to see. I just hope they can't replace Bob Barker.
No.
You know? So
No.
that's the only thing. I don't know who he's going to fight in this one. So.
Well, probably an ex-Flyer. We'll leave it at that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Why don't they fight an ex-Toronto Maple Leaf who's mad about not being allowed to touch the cup?
Oh,
or even
guy.
get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'll just tell you this. At least I got football to fall back on. What you got?
Oh, guy. Well, we got a championship
See?
Raptors team, but anyway, we'll leave that. Go Sixers.
I know.
Michael, thanks very much.
Anytime your Argonauts want to take a shot at the Eagles, come on down to the link.
Yeah.
We got a tail under there.
Guess
we would
it
be
was-
happy to put a whole bunch of Torontoians in.
Look up Rouge and get back to us. Michael, thanks very much.
Oh, great talking to you guys, man. I miss y'all.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. Michael Collins, ESPN golf analyst and longtime caddy. I was going to ask him about the Rouge, but that probably was going to go offside.
That might have been a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. There are Americans that can talk Rouge.
Yeah.
There's not many of them.
No. We'll continue on. Best Bets is next. And I should do this on the way out. Melon Fridays is brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. BP serving fish bowls and ice cold pints in the patio all summer long. So grab your sunscreen. Let's have ourselves a weekend. Boston Pizza Patio is calling you. Overdrive and TSN2, the iHeartRadio app, streaming online, and TSN 1050. Overdrive, Melon Friday, final segment for a day and a week. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Doogie, what do you have?
All right, boys, we're going to go with the Blue Jays and the LA Angels, which is in town tonight. And I got some tremendous information. Shout out Al's brother on this one. We got the Toronto Blue Jays on the money line, and I couldn't believe this stat when I saw it. The Angels have not won on August 23rd in a decade. So we're going to roll with some history here and take the Blue Jays on the money line. We're going to go with Chris Bassett at 5+ strikeouts. He's trying to rebound from back-to-back losses against the Cubs and the Oakland A's, but he's hit this number in 8 of his last 10 games. And I like Kevin Pillar, who's back in town tonight. There was a video that was posted online. He was wearing a nice Ryan Goins jersey, a little throwback from the Toronto Blue Jays, and he's back in town. So we're going to go with a Kevin Pillar hit. He's hitting around 260 on the year, and he's playing his former team.
Yeah.
And I just like the story. So Pillar back in town, going to roll with that, and that parlay totals plus 197 on the FanDuel Sportsbook app.
Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly, 19 and over, and physically located in Ontario. Did Al's brother give you any kind of moon settings? Because he usually reverts to that.
No waxing gibbous on this.
No.
But this is just pure. It's pure. You got to get the tremendous information when you can, right?
Yeah.
And when we look at those stats, you don't see that often.
I love it.
It's been a fun week.
Fun to have Michael Collins on the show. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Electric interview. That
He's
was a lot
great.
of fun.
He's one of the best.
Yeah, but
I kind of thought he'd be up for a cameo in Happy Gilmore. He seems like he could.
He can do
command
it.
a
He
screen.
seemed to know the Rouge reference.
Uh-oh.
He
Yeah.
did get a chuckle out of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he did. Oh, well.
The dude's plugged in.
Yeah.
He is. So you like the Jays tonight and the weekend?
Jays, I like the Jays this weekend. I really do. They've been hitting so well, been one of the hottest teams in baseball, and I've liked what I've seen.
And
So-
you didn't go anywhere near the CFL.
Not tonight. Not tonight. There's a lot of games on the sched, and I rolled with the Jays because the CFL's hard to predict right now.
I would have gone heavy leanage on the Bombers.
Ooh, would have been a good bet.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, great working with you, Dave.
Great work with you guys.
And we're out of here. That means Overdrive will resume on Monday.
At 4 p.m.
They'll chat then.